Okay, moving right along, we're talking about exocrine glands in the skin. So here are the standards and objectives. Pause and peruse. First, let's look at sebaceous glands. Okay, sebaceous glands or oil glands. They're Follicular glands, remember, which means when the cell bursts, that's when it releases the secretion. It discharges an oily secretion into hair follicles. Location everywhere except for palms and soles. A contraction of the erector pili muscle squeezes the sebaceous gland and forces the sebum out. The secretion is sebum. So what's the purpose? Well, it helps to waterproof the skin, it lubricates the hair and skin, and it also helps to inhibit the growth of bacteria. Follicular mites. So maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but I find it interesting. They live on human skin. So follicular mites. There are two species that live on humans. One lives in sebaceous glands, so pretty much everywhere on our body, and one lives in the hair follicles that are at the base of our eyelashes. Follicular mites are small, so if you see the difference between the mite and an average grain of table salt, so you don't really see them, but they live in our sebaceous glands, and the theory is they're going to come out at night, mate on your face, go back in, hang out, chomp on the sebum. Delicious for them. What about acne? Let's find out. So acne. Sebaceous ducts become blocked. So the sebaceous gland has a duct through the hair follicle up to the skin, but it's going to become blocked. So secretions get trapped and accumulate, and it can cause inflammation and can be prone to bacterial infection, which would result in a raised pimple. So a whitehead just means it's blocked, but the surface of the skin is closed, so it just looks white. A blackhead meaning it kind of stayed open a little bit, so the sebum starts to oxidize in the skin, and then if it's completely blocked and bacteria accumulates, that would result in a pimple. Now let's look at sweat glands. Sweat glands are called sudoriferous glands, and there are two types, apocrine and merocrine. Apocrine sweat glands. I always remember these because I think ape. Okay, so they secrete into hair follicles. They develop during puberty, and they help us smell like apes. It produces a thicker sweat, so it has fat and protein in it. It's not just a watery sweat. And the location, armpits, around the nipples, and in the groin area. Hence, makes us smell like apes. The sweat can have an odor, but why does it have an odor? Because bacteria chomp on that delicious fat and protein, break it down, and they create the odor. The sweat itself does not smell. Now, merocrine glands are also called eccrine sweat glands. They secrete the sweat onto the surface of the skin. This is widely distributed. Palms and soles have a lot. That's why your palms might get sweaty when you're nervous. It produces a clear, watery sweat. It's about 99% water, but also has some salts, some electrolytes. The function is primarily cool the surface of the skin, because as the water evaporates, it's going to pull away excess heat, helps us cool down. Other functions of sweat, well, sweat does more than just cool your skin, although that's a primary reason. But it can dilute harmful chemicals that are on your skin. It can flush microorganisms from your skin surface. And it contains a protein, germicidin, which actually has antibiotic properties. So it can help keep bacteria from growing. Now let's look at some modified sweat glands. Two that we're going to talk about, mammary and CERUMINOUS. Mammary glands, located in breasts. They're modified apocrine sweat glands that secrete milk. So they're not the, remember the apocrine glands were the ones that had fat and protein in it, so that should make sense. We don't want milk to just be water. We want it to contain nutrients, the fats and the proteins. So mammary glands are modified apocrine that secrete milk. And ceruminous glands are located in the ear canal. They're also modified apocrine sweat glands, and they produce cerumen, or help to form earwax. The function is to protect the eardrum, lubricate the ear canal, and help to fight infection, catch anything that might get into your ear. What type of gland in the ear canal helps produce earwax? Ceruminous. What type of sweat glands are found in the axillary and inguinal regions? Remember, that's armpit and groin. Apocrine, right? Ape-like. What type of glands are modified apocrine glands that produce milk? Mammary glands. Acne forms in what type of glands? Sebaceous. Remember the difference between whether the skin is the pores completely closed, whitehead, whether it's open and oxidizes the sebum, blackhead, whether it's closed and develops an infection, pimples. Follicular mites feed off of what type of glands? Also sebaceous. And there you have it. That's exocrine glands in the skin, and I hope you learned something new today.